Have you ever seen this picture of Richard Nixon while he was vice president in 1958, heading a soccer ball during his goodwill tour of South America in Quito, Ecuador? I've never seen that one before. And that has led me down this rabbit hole of being curious about interesting photos of presidents. And that's what we're going to take a look at today. This is actually 40 photos that have been compiled by a channel called History's Toff. And I'll put a link down in the description to the original compilation that we're taking a look at here. I have the music turned off, but we're going to take a look at the pictures, talk about each one, offer some context, maybe make some observations about the nature of the president involved, and should be a lot of fun. Speaking of presidents, this Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern U.S. time, I know it's football night for folks on the East Coast, but hopefully some of you can join in. We're going to actually be doing a very unique live stream where we're going to be, as a collective, going through every U.S. presidential election, starting with 1788, going all the way through 2024, and I'm going to put it up to a vote to the people, to those of you in the audience watching the live stream, and we're going to vote on each of these elections and see how many elections have a different outcome than what actually happened. And we'll talk a little bit about each one as we do that, so it should be a lot of fun. All right, let's go ahead and dive into this. All right, so here's the next one. Donald Trump shows his big bottom when playing tennis at an invitational tennis tournament held at Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, I mean, listen, all of us, I think, if we're honest, would say that there are less than flattering photos out there of us, especially when you're somebody who's in the media all the time. And, you know, I probably wouldn't have dressed like that if I had a body like that. I mean, I'm pretty selective with my clothing as it is because I'm not getting any younger. But, yeah, it's not a great picture of Donald Trump, is it? All right, I love this one. I've seen this picture before. Joe Biden photobombs a family selfie through a door window in Nantucket, Massachusetts. That is a fantastic picture, and that is one that if these are my kids or if I was one of those kids, I would definitely have hanging up on my wall for the rest of my life. That's awesome. I love it. Oh, this is interesting. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger and George H.W. Bush sledding down the mountain, Camp David, 1991. So if you're not familiar with Camp David's actually in kind of secluded mountain regions of central Maryland. It's not real far south of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, actually, and it's just a short helicopter ride from D.C., and it's a place that it's kind of like Balmoral, I guess, would be for the king in the UK, where it's an area where they can kind of get out there and be out on the grounds and kind of be themselves without having to have security immediately all around them. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course, at this time was really involved in like promoting health and fitness in the United States, and he kind of worked alongside then President Bush on those things. And President Bush, despite being about 70 years old here, was a relatively fit and active guy and went skydiving, I think, into his 80s. So pretty cool to see this one. All right, what do we got next? I never know what the timing is on these. Here we go. Oh, Bill Clinton attempts to catch a ball while playing touch football on the beach unsuccessfully in 1993. Listen, when I think of physical fitness presidents and sports-like presidents, Bill Clinton's not the one that comes to the top of my list. There's this very famous Saturday Night Live skit that was done with Phil Hartman playing Clinton, where he walks into a McDonald's and he starts eating everyone's food. But Clinton had other gifts, right? I mean, he was a charming guy. He was very like he could connect with people when he talked to them. And I've heard from people that have met him personally that he's very warm and charming and friendly in person. He played the saxophone famously on the Arsenio Hall show, which endeared him to a lot of people. And he was young, too. I mean, he's in his 40s. He's one of the youngest presidents we've ever had. People forget that. But, yeah, apparently not a football player. He got hit right in the face with the ball. That's awesome. Oh, here we go. Joe Biden again. That birthday cake does not look... Oh, my gosh. His 81st birthday. So my favorite fact... there's a lot of challenge coins behind him there. That's actually a pretty cool display. My favorite fun fact about Joe Biden is that he was born closer to Abraham Lincoln's second inauguration than he was to his own inauguration. I always like to throw that one out there. Is there really 81 candles on that cake? What is Reagan doing there? Posing with weirdly casual clothes. Yeah, he had a ranch in California. It was well known to do a lot of... Him and George W. Bush had a lot in common, where you'd see a lot of images of them like doing stuff on their ranch. With George W. Bush, it was driving a pickup truck. With Reagan, it was often riding horses. He's associated heavily with California because of his work in the film industry, but he's actually from Dixon, Illinois originally. But I mean, you can see he's still pretty buff guy there. I mean, for a guy in his 70s at that point. Close up of Vice President Nixon being interviewed during the Republican National Convention in 1956. Our second youngest vice president in history. I think J.D. Vance is third. The only vice presidents younger than Vance are Nixon and then John C. Breckinridge, who was our youngest. He was 39. Joe Biden hands the mic to the pardoned turkey. He's named. Yeah, it's a tradition that U.S. presidents will pardon a turkey at Thanksgiving. I'm not sure what he thought the turkey was going to say. It was probably just a hilarious kind of thing that he was doing for fun there. What? Reagan wearing a fake mustache during congressional barbecue. Ronald Reagan famously... I'm more concerned about the jacket he's wearing here, the suit jacket in this case, that looks like it's like a tartan from Scotland. Reagan had a great sense of humor. If you watch a lot of his speeches, hilarious guy. I mean, but he was a great communicator, and that's what we call him, the great communicator. He was an actor. What is Bush doing here? Taking a selfie during his campaign? Was he taking a selfie, or was this a situation where he just looked at the lens as someone took a picture up really close, like on the plane? I'm not sure, because selfies weren't really a thing yet at that time. Reagan faking a punch to a congressman aboard an Air Force One trip in 1986. That's pretty good. I like that one. I'd love to know the story behind the pig picture on the wall there. Boy, Biden's in a lot of these, isn't he? He's eating a Philly cheesesteak with Whiz. What's Whiz? Is that like a cheese? During a surprise visit to South Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 2010. Okay, Bill Clinton hides between statues of his predecessor, George H.W. Bush, and his successor, George W. Bush. Clinton very famously think about it, he defeated George H.W. Bush in the 1992 election, but they got along great afterwards, and it's a testament to the civility that is possible between former rivals in the United States when they have a healthy respect, not only for the office, but for each other. And that was a great example of that. I love this picture. I think I've seen that one before. Oh, George Bush, for some reason, holds up a picture of a hamster, 2020s. Listen, whatever you think about his politics, I've always found George W. Bush to be a very charming and kind of like, not charming in the same way as Bill Clinton, who was very polished, charming. George W. Bush is more of a like goofy uncle that's harmless, charming. Obama secretly filmed working out at a hotel gym in Warsaw. Here's my question about this. Who got close enough to the President of the United States to secretly film him working out in a hotel? This seems kind of strange to me. But speaking of Poland, stay tuned. Looks like 2026 is the year I'm going to Poland with some friends. So we'll see about that. But lots of cool stuff we're kind of talking about for that one. I've been talking about wanting to go to Poland for years now. Bill Clinton smiles watching Ariana Grande perform at Aretha Franklin's funeral in 2018. I feel like this is one of those like unfortunately timed and angled photos, right? I know there's a lot of talk about Bill Clinton's sexual appetites, but I have a hard time believing Bill Clinton was staring at Ariana Grande's butt while she was singing at Aretha Franklin's funeral. I think maybe just the angle and the timing of this one just makes it look like something it wasn't, but who knows. George Bush braces to blow out the candles on his birthday cake together with the Chicago mayor in 2006. I mean, the mayor of Chicago had to be a Democrat in 2006, right? I don't know who was the mayor at that time, but interesting to be hanging out with the mayor of Chicago for a Republican president. Richard Nixon screams after receiving the Republican nomination for president in 1960. Didn't necessarily go well, that election for him, but he comes back several years later and wins in 1968 after losing a race for governor of California. Lyndon Johnson, bewildered, staring at a turkey presented to him in the fish. Is there a fish room in the White House? I've never heard of a fish room in the White House. That's news to me. Presented by Senator Everett Dirksen in 1967. I love Johnson's face. He's kind of got this thing going on here. I've never seen this one before. A lot of turkey pictures in this. A lot of recent, like we're getting a lot of like the last 50, 60 years, right? I haven't seen a lot of like older presidents. There's a lot of great photos of older presidents too. A turkey named Liberty takes George Bush by surprise during the annual turkey pardoning event in 2001. There's another turkey. Interesting. 2001, so early in Bush's first term. Actually, his first year as president. His first turkey pardoning. Ronald Reagan makes a funny face at reporters attending a dinner after being told it would be off the record in 1983. Interesting timing on that one, too. Like I said, he had a great sense of humor. John McCain makes a funny face with Obama after exiting the stage the wrong way in 2008. This was a fascinating election. John McCain had run against George W. Bush for the nomination in 2000. Bush, of course, wins the Republican nomination. And so after Bush's 8 years in office, McCain was kind of seen as, well, it's his turn now. But he comes in running up against the juggernaut that is Barack Obama at a time when Obama comes in on a wave of popularity. And I'm not sure the Republicans could have run anybody that would have beaten Obama in 2008 based on all of those things. But it was a very civil election. Strong disagreements and not a perfectly civil election. But for the most part, I think both of these guys handled themselves pretty well. And after 2012, I think, is when our elections kind of went downhill a little bit. And it's happened before, and it'll happen again. Oh, here we got an older one. Vice President Truman leans down to help after his birthday cake is accidentally dropped weeks before he becomes president in 1945. So, I mean, he was only vice president for a matter of weeks, right? You know, January until April, so 3 months he was vice president. So this is interesting and reminds me of a story that happened last year when we were in Italy on our group tour. My friend Joe had his birthday while we were in Italy, and we were at this outdoor cafe, and they bring out a cake, and right before they get to Joe, they drop it, and it lands like partially on Joe, and no more birthday cake. So it reminds me a lot of that, only Joe wasn't the president of the United States like this. That's definitely a mess, though. Interesting timing on that photo. Ronald Reagan in the Oval Office on a wooden rocking horse, 1982. It looks like something that maybe was like a gift from like an ambassador or a foreign nation of some kind. And so I doubt very much it stayed in the Oval Office for very long. A toddler throws a tantrum on the floor of the White House as Barack Obama looks on 2015. I mean, Michelle's standing there kind of looking as well. Everybody's smiling. I love Obama's kind of like, oh, look at this. I mean, they're parents. They've obviously gone through their own daughters, Sasha and Malia, doing stuff like this. That girl laying on the floor having the tantrum's got to be a teenager now, right? I mean, I hope that this photo is hanging framed in her parents' house somewhere, or she has it. I mean, if that was me or my kid, absolutely that picture would be framed and hanging up somewhere. Now what's Nixon doing? He's in a mid-air jump for some reason, 1955. He looks like he's levitating just because of the timing of the thing. I've said it before. I mean, Nixon, young guy, a lot more energy than a lot of people. Oh, this is awesome. Hands back a crying baby that was handed to him from the crowd, Germany 2006. I love the face he's making to kind of match the mood of the child he's holding at that moment. Oh, here's JFK being served fettuccine Alfredo by its inventor. Oh, the original Alfredo Lelio, at a restaurant in Rome in 1963. That's awesome. Pasta is fantastic, as you might expect in Italy. Highly recommend if you ever get the chance to go to Italy, do it. It's wonderful. What is going on here? Another horse in the Oval Office. Two people dressed up as a fake horse. 1989. I have so many questions about what compelled someone to be in the Oval Office dressed that way. There's got to be a story behind that. National Association for Children. I mean, that's not even a word we use anymore, right? It shows you how our sensibilities about certain words have changed. Same thing with the use. I guess I probably won't even say other examples because I might get demonetized. But JFK speaking at the 13th Annual Convention for Children, 1962. I may go back and mute myself saying that, or else I might get demonetized on this one. I've seen this one before. So this was like George Bush giving a one-finger victory salute before an interview. I forget who it was. Was it Bill O'Reilly or somebody? But it was like during a break in the filming, and they were getting ready to start, and he was just joking around and did that to the camera right before they started. But very unfortunate for him. But it, of course, didn't affect him being president. George H.W. Bush gives a cheesy grin while campaigning during his first presidential run. Yeah, so he ran in 1980. He had been the director of the CIA, had been a congressman, I think, and then had served as the chairman of the Republican National Committee. And he runs and is ultimately made Ronald Reagan's running mate when Reagan wins the nomination in 1980. And they were, of course, running up against incumbent President Jimmy Carter at that time. Dwight Eisenhower sitting casually with his legs crossed during World War II. Yeah, this is a great color photo. People don't realize, I mean, because most photos you see from the 1940s are black and white. But we did have color photography. Color photography was actually invented back in like the late 1860s. It just wasn't really prominent until you get into like the 1950s and 60s. Really probably the 1960s before everyday use color photography comes along. Whoa, sir, whoa. Ronald Reagan aiming a hunting rifle on Air Force One. Different times, man, different times. Interesting. And that there's a poor lady. I mean, it's obviously not pointed at that woman. It's just pointed in that direction. Jimmy Carter almost slips and almost falls on the ice. The year I was born, 1977. Was he actually slipping, or is this like something he played up for the camera? It's hard to say. But I mean, Carter wasn't that old either. He was early 50s, I think. He's probably my age or just slightly older. There. Bill Clinton stretches after jogging in very short shorts. That's right up there. I mean, it's not quite as bad as the Trump playing tennis photo we saw earlier, but what is Ike doing here? Wearing I Like Ike glasses, a popular slogan in support of Eisenhower in 1956. So he was running for re-election in 1956 and won that election, of course. What is Popeye doing here? Herbert Hoover thanks Popeye, who is handing him $100 bills contribution to charity 1940. Listen, Herbert Hoover and John Adams, I would say, the two presidents whose presidency was the worst part of their careers, right? I mean, both had not great presidencies, but both outside of their presidencies did a lot of really good things for the country and for the world. And He lived a long time after his presidency. Lived like 30, 40, I want to say 40 years after his presidency. So he had a lot of life left to live, and he did a lot of good things during that time. George Bush smoldering while holding corn during an impromptu campaign stop in 2004. Smoldering. Yeah. See, I can't do that. Interesting. All right, I guess that was the last of those. So yeah, I put the link down in the description. Looks like he's got 40 photos of presidents being angry, 40 cutest presidents photos. We'll check those out at some point as well. Interesting that they're all 8 minutes and 58 seconds long. That's a fascinating. I wonder if there's some reason for that, but I don't know. Anyway, you can check out that channel through the link below. Thanks for watching.